When we talk about sexual intimacy, one of the most overlooked yet powerful elements is how partners prioritize each other's pleasure. When a man chooses to perform oral sex on his partner, it communicates far more than just a physical act. It becomes a language of care, respect, and deep connection. Many times in my practice and in conversations with patients, I hear women express that oral sex is not simply about sensation, but about what it represents. The idea that their partner is willing to focus on them, slow down, and create a safe space where their body is celebrated. In many ways, this small decision reflects the bigger picture of how intimacy works within a healthy relationship. Think about it this way. Sex is often portrayed in media and culture as penetration focused, with male orgasm being the goalpost. But in reality, women's bodies and arousal patterns are very different. Most women require more than penetration to reach climax, and many need direct clitoral stimulation. When a man acknowledges this and takes time to explore, it's essentially saying, I see you. I value why intimacy is more than just sex. You. And I want to make sure this experience is pleasurable for you, too. That is a profound shift away from ego-driven intimacy toward partnership-driven intimacy. It demonstrates that the man is not only aware of his partner's needs, but willing to put in the effort to meet them. In my perspective, what this act represents is respect. Respect for her body, respect for her individuality, and respect for her right to enjoy sex equally. Too often, women are conditioned to believe that their pleasure is secondary or that voicing their needs makes them demanding. But when a partner willingly engages in oral sex without shame or hesitation, it helps to dismantle those negative narratives. It tells a woman, your body deserves pleasure. Your satisfaction is not optional, it is essential. That respect builds emotional safety, and emotional safety is the foundation of deeper physical intimacy. Another layer to this is communication. For a man to pleasure his partner effectively, he has to be attuned to her responses. Every woman is different, and what works for one may not work for another. That means paying attention to her body language, her breath, her sounds, and most importantly, her words. Men who are willing to engage in oral sex tend to be men who listen. They are curious. They ask questions. They're open to feed. That creates a loop of communication that extends beyond the bedroom. If he's listening here, chances are he's listening in other areas of the day's relationship too. This kind of attentiveness helps to build trust. A woman who feels heard, who feels like her needs are not only recognized, but prioritized, is more likely to relax into intimacy. She can let go of anxiety, performance, pressure, or fear of judgment because she knows her. Oral sex as respect and care. Partner is present and focused on her. That trust doesn't just make sex better. It strengthens the entire relationship. When trust grows in intimate spaces, it spills over into daily life. Couples who nurture each other in this way often report feeling more connected, more affectionate, and more willing to share openly with one another. Ultimately, oral sex in this context is not just about the mechanics of pleasure. It's about what it symbolizes. It's a reflection of empathy, respect, and partnership. It's an acknowledgement that intimacy is not one size fits all and that real connection requires attentiveness to the unique needs of the Baxter person you love. For women, it can be one of the clearest demonstrations that their partner sees them as an equal in sexual pleasure. For men, it's an incel opportunity to show care in a way that goes far beyond physicality. When we step back and really think about it, what does it say about a man who chooses to go down on his partner? It says he's willing to give without expecting immediate reciprocation. It says he prioritizes her joy as much as his own. It says he's invested in intimacy as a grasped, shared journey, not a one-sided act. That kind of mindset is powerful. It transforms sex from a performance into a connection, and it transforms relationships from transactional into deeply nurturing bonds. So, in the end, the act itself is important, but the meaning behind it is even more profound. It's about valuing her as a partner, listening to her needs, and respecting her body. That is what true intimacy is built on. And men who embody that to approach often find that not only are their partners more satisfied, but the relationship as a whole becomes richer, more trusting, and more fulfilling. When we think about masculinity, there are so many cultural messages that shape how backs men view themselves. Society often emphasizes dominance, strength, and performance, especially in the context of sexuality. Men are told that what confidence in the bedroom really looks like. Masculine means being in control, penetrating, and finishing strong. But the truth is, real confidence in the protected shay in the contomises. Bedroom isn't about how long you last, how aggressive you are, or even the size of your penis. It's about how secure you feel in your own skin and how open you are to giving pleasure without worrying about outdated stereotypes. Performing oral sex on a woman is a prime example of that kind of confidence. For many men, the idea of pleasuring a woman orally brings up insecurities. They might worry, am I doing this right? Will she enjoy it? Does it make me look submissive? Those concerns are completely normal. But here's the thing, choosing to go down on a partner and doing it with enthusiasm actually shows incredible strength. It signals that you're confident enough to set aside your ego and focus on her experience. Instead of being afraid of vulnerability, you lean into it, and that takes a secure man, not an insecure one. Confidence in intimacy doesn't come from pretending to know everything. It comes from being willing to learn, to experiment, and to adapt. Men who prioritize oral sex are often those who are comfortable asking questions, paying attention to feedback, and adjusting as needed. That's not weakness, it's maturity. It shows that you value connection over control and that you are secure enough in yourself to acknowledge that your partner's pleasure matters just as much as yours. Let's talk about vulnerability for a moment. Culturally, vulnerability is often framed as a weakness for men, but in reality, vulnerability is one of the strongest traits you can have. Allowing yourself to be in a position where you are giving without immediate gratification, where your partner has control over how she responds, where you're focusing on her instead of yourself. That is powerful. It requires a kind of emotional openness that many men struggle with, but those who embrace it often find their relationships grow stronger because of it. Another layer of this is security. Men who are secure in their masculinity don't view oral sex as something that takes away from their identity. They don't fear being judged or mocked because they understand that intimacy is about partnership, not about proving manhood. In fact, studies have shown that men who are more comfortable with giving oral sex report higher sexual satisfaction in their relationships. Why vulnerability equals strength? Why? Because when a partner feels fully seen and satisfied, she's more likely to reciprocate, to feel closer, and to invest emotionally in the relationship. The benefits are mutual. I often remind people that sex is not a performance, it's a collaboration, and collaboration requires equality. A man who is willing to pleasure his partner orally is making a statement that intimacy isn't about one sided dominance, but about balance. That balance is a hallmark of confidence. It says, I'm not threatened by giving. I don't need to be in the spotlight every second. I'm secure enough to enjoy your pleasure as much as mine. That's real masculinity. Quiet, grounded, and sure of itself. Confidence also shows up in how men handle feedback. A man who is secure in himself doesn't feel attacked if his partner says a little softer or try this instead. Instead, he sees it as helpful information that brings them closer to pleasure together. For men who might still feel hesitant, I would encourage reframing the way you think about this act. Instead of worrying about whether it makes you look weak, think about how much strength it takes to fully invest in your partner's experience. Think about how much security it requires to present expireds. Let go of ego and be fully present in past, the moment. And think about how much closer it brings you to your partner when she feels cherished and satisfied. That's not weakness. That's the very definition of masculine confidence. So, what does oral sex on a female partner really say about you as a man? It says you're secure. It says you don't let outdated cultural scripts dictate your behavior. It says you're confident enough to embrace vulnerability, to science of female pleasure, listen, and to prioritize connection over performance. It shows that you understand intimacy isn't about control, but about partnership. And in the end, that kind of confidence doesn't just make you a better lover, it makes you a better partner in every sense of the side word. When we look at the science of female pleasure, one of the most important things to understand is that women's bodies are wired differently than men's. While male orgasm is usually straightforward and linked directly to stimulation of the penis, female orgasm is much more complex. Research consistently shows that the majority of sky women do not reach orgasm through penetration alone. Instead, they require direct or indirect stimulation of the clitoris, which has thousands of nerve endings specifically designed for pleasure. This is where oral sex becomes incredibly meaningful, not just as an addition, intimate act, but as an acknowledgement of how women's bodies truly function. When a man takes the time to go down on after day, his partner, he's essentially saying, I understand that your body has unique needs and I want to honor them. That understanding is powerful because it validates the reality that female pleasure is not a side note to sex. It is central to the experience. For too long, cultural narratives have ignored this truth, leaving many women unsatisfied or believing that their bodies are somehow broken. In fact, studies suggest that only about 25% of Women orgasm reliably from vaginal intercourse alone. So when a man prioritizes cunnilingus, he's aligning with science, not just fantasy. He's acknowledging what decades of research make clear: women need clitoral stimulation, and providing it is essential for truly satisfying intimacy. Clitoral stimulation explained. This is not just about orgasm, though. Oral sex also fosters deeper emotional bonds. When a partner invests time and attention in pleasuring a woman in this way, it sends a message of care and dark patience. It shows he is willing to slow down and focus on her experience without rushing toward his own climax. That kind of their fight because of attentiveness builds trust and intimacy that extends well beyond the process. Bedroom. Women who feel cared for sexually often report greater emotional closeness and higher overall relationship satisfaction. This is because sexual intimacy is not an isolated part of a relationship. It reflects and reinforces the patterns of connection, communication, and respect that exist in daily life. Another important point is the role of reciprocity. When women feel that their FIDE and needs are prioritized and their bodies celebrated, they are more likely to reciprocate, not just sexually, but emotionally. It creates a positive cycle where both partners feel valued and willing to give more. This is why couples who openly engage in oral sex and prioritize mutual satisfaction tend to report stronger bonds and less sexual frustration. Instead of sex being a chore or a performance, it becomes a shared journey where both partners feel fulfilled. From a medical perspective, orgasms provide multiple health benefits for women. They help reduce stress, improve sleep, release endorphins, and even contribute to pelvic floor health. By focusing on the clitoris through oral sex, men are supporting not only their DVG partner's immediate pleasure, but also how prioritizing her pleasure builds trust, her overall well-being. That kind of approach goes far beyond physical gratification. It's a contribution to her health and quality of life. And when women experience regular satisfying sexual encounters, it boosts their confidence, reduces anxiety, and strengthens emotional resilience. So, in many ways, oral sex is not just an intimate act, but an investment in her long-term wellness. We also have to address the reality that many women struggle to voice their sexual needs. Cultural shame, fear of judgment, or lack of education can prevent women from speaking up about what feels good. Men who initiate oral sex without waiting for explicit requests often break down those barriers. They normalize the idea that her pleasure is not optional, but essential. This encourages women to feel safer about expressing themselves, leading to better communication and more enjoyable intimacy for both partners. What does this mean for relationships? It means that men who embrace oral sex often create more balanced partnerships. Instead of intimacy being one-sided, where the man's orgasm defines success, it becomes about shared satisfaction. That shift reduces resentment and frustration. Women no longer feel invisible or undervalued in the bedroom. And men